All right, y'all, what is going on? This is another edition of Never Out of Bounds. Of course, this is the place we can say what you want as long as you got the facts. This is your man, L. Shimon. Of course, we are in the midst of the college football season. Of course, everything pretty much has been underway for the past couple of weeks. We are breaking down these conferences, and today I have the SEC. Now, I'm going to be doing something a little bit different today. Of course, I'm going to be breaking down what to expect from these teams going into this season, but I'm just going to just outright say it. I feel the SEC, at least for the past few years, maybe more than that, has at least 5 years, but has been very top heavy and has been pretty much being carried by Bama and Georgia. And for the most part, there's a few teams that I respect, but I'm tired of hearing about this conference being this monolith as it is. Outside those two teams, I'm tired of hearing it. I'm just gonna keep it real with y'all. So today, I'm gonna be breaking these teams down into 4 different tiers. My highest tier is gonna be my no arguments here category, meaning they're the elite. They've earned this spot. They've had some great recent success. In the case of one team, they've just pretty much always been dominant. We're going to move on to my next tier below that, which is my now and later squads. They win every now and again. It's been a while since they've won anything significant, but they remain in the national conversation based on them being in the SEC. You get the picture. And then behind them, we have the mid-pack, and you know what that means. Middle of the road. They haven't really done anything significant. They might challenge every now and again, but there you go. And of course, we have the bottom of the barrel, the worst of the bunch. These are the guys that haven't won a conference title ever. They haven't won a division title ever, or maybe just one. They have a very low winning percentage, things of that nature. Of course, no national championships to speak of, and there's a few teams that fit in that category. Surprising, to say the least. Now, let's go into it, and I'm going to just go ahead right into it, and we're going to start off with Alabama. Yes, good old Alabama, right? Well, it depends on where you want to go, your source. They had between 16 and 18 national championships. So we know that this is the squad. This is my no arguments here category. You're not going to hear me say anything negative for the most part. I think they've earned their spot from years ago. Their first national championship will come in 1925. The most recent was in 2020. What can you say? They won 6 under Nick Saban by himself. They also won a bunch under Brad Bryant. We know what the deal is with these guys. They are tied for the most national championships next with Yale. You can say what you want there, but as far as D1 competition is concerned, the nearest competition is Notre Dame, who has just 13. We have Michigan and USC tied here with 9, and we know Michigan hasn't won one in a very long time, so there you go. And then we have Ohio State here with 8. There's a couple teams with 5 or more here, just to kind of put you in some perspective. We have Minnesota here with 6, yeah, I know, and then Oklahoma with 7. So they're, on the national scene, that's what you got. Now, in terms of the conference, the SEC, Alabama has 33 titles. That is double the next competition, which is Tennessee with 13, but they haven't won one since 1998, back before we knew Peyton Manning had such a big ass forehead and before he was putting certain body parts in people's faces. And then we have Georgia here with 13, and we'll get to Georgia in just a second. And then you have LSU here with 12. They won 5 since 2000, but again, ain't nothing compared to Alabama. Let's be real here. We have Florida and Auburn here. They've won 8, and then we have Ole Miss with 3. And we'll talk about them in a minute too. We have Mississippi State and Kentucky here with 1. Again, we just putting some perspective out there for you guys. And then we have, of course, Vanderbilt, Texas A&M, and Mizzou, and even Arkansas, who haven't won one at all. What? Again, Texas A&M hasn't even won a division, despite being Alabama a couple times. Arkansas, they've made 4 appearances in the SEC title game. They've won the division 4 times, but they've been blown out in every single conference championship game they've been in. And they haven't been in one since I was a sophomore in high school. And this was in 2006. So, there you go. So, Alabama, no arguments here. As far as what we see in 2022, of course, they're bringing back, 12 starters. Not a whole lot for this squad, but again, they recruit very well. They utilize the transfer portal to some extent, but they're bringing back their best players from last year, and that's the most important thing. Bryce Young last year threw for over 4,800 yards, completing 66% of his passes, 47 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Will Anderson was a Nagurski Award winner with over 100 tackles, 17 tackles for loss, 17 and a half sacks. Come on now. Woo. And last year, they saying last year was a down year. What? 4 wins by 7 points or less for Alabama. That's a down year, and they still only had like what, 1 loss, 2 losses overall. They were going to win the SEC title, of course, to Georgia, but they were going to lose to them in the national championship game. You know, like as I mentioned, we'll get to Georgia in just a second. That is their main rival right now in terms of, who can beat them right now. But outside of Anderson and Young, they bring back some great starters for the offense. They bring back 3 starters on the offensive line. They bring back 2 of their top running backs, and they also bring in a transfer here, Jahmyr Gibbs, out of Georgia Tech. I believe he had over a 1,500-yard season last season. We do have some issues here at the wideout spot. Nick Saban was very disappointed in what they did in the national championship game. They ended up bringing in a Georgia transfer there. But, I mean, it's Alabama. How far away could they be off the beaten path? I wouldn't bet against Bama. That's me, y'all, but that's me. The other team that fits this category for right now, I'm going to go with Georgia. They're a recent national champion. That brings their total to 3. They've won 12 conference titles. We mentioned that before. Their defensive coordinator is now my head coach, of course, Dan Lanning, they're at the University of Oregon. We saw what happened last week. So, again, that just shows you, we took their defensive coordinator and they still blew us out. And this is the cold part. I'm watching the second half, and the offensive coordinator from Georgia is sitting there like, yeah, we expected him to, pretty much use the same packages at Georgia. And he probably did nothing different, and they're just running us over. 49-3, of course, was the final score. Stetson Bennett, what can I say? Really glowing performance from him. I believe he had 3 passing touchdowns, 4 total touchdowns. I believe he had 1 on the ground. Correct me if I'm wrong there. But really looked really good in that game. We gave him a whole lot of hell last year. I know I did personally, but he looked very damn good. But also on the offense, they bring back the running backs, Kenny McIntosh, Kendall Milton. They also had a pretty decent game last Saturday. They look to pick up where James Cook and Zamir White left off. They should. I think they have a good start at that. They only have 3 starters returning on defense, but does it really matter? With the way Kirby Smart has the guys coached up, their defensive coordinator obviously has these guys dialed in. Does it really matter? Just saying. It looked damn good versus Oregon. I hate to say it. That's, of course, Oregon's my favorite team, but they blew us the fuck out. Let's just be real. Had us licking our wounds a little bit. Let's just know a lot. Let's just be real. Let's move on to my now and later teams again. They win every now and again. They're not consistent enough, in my opinion, to be considered elite, though. We have Florida, 3-time national champion, hasn't won shit in, damn near 20. Oh, actually, yeah, over 20 years, looks like. No, I'm just being facetious. But over a decade. They ain't won nothing over a decade. They have 8 conference championships, so they're decent in that stat. Their last will come, I believe, in 2016. Okay. But this team's bugaboo is that, when they get to the conference championship game, they seem to find themselves getting blown out by Bama. They came up short the last 2 times, 2015, 2016, 2020. They just can't seem to get it done. I'm just saying, we give these teams these extra accolades because they play in this conference, but in reality, what do they really do? Okay, they can't beat Bama. They can't really beat Georgia on a consistent basis, but they're worthy of such praise. They haven't won a championship in over a decade. I just said it. Florida hasn't won a championship in over a decade, but okay. And see, this is the thing, how their little thing works. They won their first in 1996, didn't win one until 2006. Could that really be dominant when Bama has been winning everything every year damn near? I don't know. It's been just 2 years since Bama has been in a championship. It's been over 10 years since Florida's been to its last championship. Who's more elite? Who's really elite here? Last season, Florida would open ranked number 13 and were 3-1 before coming up short to Bama as usual, then finishing the season 6-7. On the defense this season, they bring back their All-SEC or 2-time All-SEC linebacker Brennan Cox, who last year had 8.5 sacks. They had a decent win this year to start off with a 29-26 victory over Utah week 1. So they have some positive things going for them, but again, until they are able to close out a season, win a conference title, can you really say that they're where they're supposed to be? I'm just saying, or are they just a little bit overrated? I go with the latter. Up next, we have LSU, 4-time national champion, 12 SEC titles. The last coming in 2019, just like their national championship. Everybody wants to hop on this one. Oh, well, what about LSU? They won recently, Jamal. Don't you remember? I do. But do you remember what's happened since then? Huh? Really? You want to go there? Yeah? Okay. Well, since 2019, they started off 2020 ranked number 6 and then dropped out of the rankings in just 3 weeks. They went through 3 starting quarterbacks who all left. Miles Brennan, TJ Finley, and Max Johnson. Brad Johnson's kid. They gone. They finished that season 5-5. Huh? Okay. Also, what happened in 2021? Oh, they lost to UCLA. Remember with your powder blue shirt on? Huh? You do? You do? Yeah? Okay, what happened? They finished 6-7. Wow. They're 11-12 over the past 2 seasons. But that's elite LSU football, baby. Yeah? Is that what you consider to be elite? They already started off with an L to Florida State. And Florida State hasn't been, they trying to find their way as well. Okay. Whew. All right, y'all. Oh man, y'all ended up getting a win against Texas A&M 27-24. Okay, a little upset win there, but then y'all ended up getting blown out in your ball game to Kansas State. Whew. Do you have Prince Albert in the can? In the words of it, of course. You do? Well, y'all better let the poor fellas out. Y'all suck. I'm just being honest. We'll see what happens this year, though. Y'all got a little new coach in Brian Kelly. We'll see. You know, y'all was looking to brag about that too much, and then y'all lost. Or y'all already making excuses. I'm just saying. Here we go. Here's a borderline team. I got Auburn here. They're still in my now and later squad, but they could easily be a mid-pack. Let's be real. 2 national championships, 1957, and then the one that they love to polish off because of Cam Newton in 2010, 2011. 8 SEC titles. The last would come in 2013. Their last appearance was a loss to Georgia. Sorry, a loss to Bama, I believe. 7-28. They're 2-7 in their last 8 ball games. But again, that's the SEC standard. Now, mind you, I ain't gonna rag on Auburn too bad. I like some of the fans. They're really respectful to me. We have some great college football discussions, so I ain't really gonna bag on them too hard. But my thing is, if you ask Paul Feinbaum and you ask anybody else who's pro SEC or pro college football, they want to tell you how all the SEC, when they say the SEC is the greatest, this is what they want you to think about. 2-7 in your last 8 ball games. Come on. Okay. Now they started off this season with a win over Mercer. Great. They're gonna get a win this week over San Jose State. So this season they have a chance to go. They have a chance to have a decent record before their Georgia game, which I know is going to be an L. I think Penn State could be a 50-50 game. Of course, they get a win against Mizzou. LSU could probably be a 50-50 game, especially with the way we see LSU doing their thing. I think they could get Ole Miss, a W against Ole Miss. So they in the bye, they could have at least 1 loss going into their bye week. Arkansas is a 50-50 game. So this is a team that could finish with a decent record. I don't see them beating Bama in the Iron Ball. Texas A&M could go either way. They've won back-to-back. Actually, they've lost back-to-back in that series versus A&M after winning 3 straight. So, again, it is what it is there. They're 1-4 at home versus the Aggies, though. So that should be an interesting matchup. You know, they have Western Kentucky. That's an easy win. And like I said, I don't see them beating Bama. But they should have a decent turnaround this season. Again, this is a year. 2021. Auburn was much like Georgia, where they started off pretty hot, 6-2 to be exact for Auburn. They also reached number 12 before losing 4 straight, and then they would lose. They would come up short in overtime and 4 overtimes, if I'm not mistaken, to Alabama. So again, you know, now and later, like I said, it's been since 2010. It's been 12 years, y'all. 12 years. And before that, it was in 1957. Apparently, they won one in 1983, and they don't claim it. in the comments, y'all let me know. Do y'all as fans, do y'all claim the unclaimed shit? Do y'all count those? I don't know. But hey, 1957 to 2010, now and later. That's definition. 2-7 in their last 8 ball games. Again, Paul Feinbaum and them, they always love bragging about these teams. I'm just saying. ESPN and them, they always love to harp on these cats, and I don't understand why. Let's move on to the mid-pack. Arkansas only made 3 SEC championships in their program's history. Of course, the SEC championship game is really, well, I wouldn't even say relatively new, but it came about in the early 90s. I think the year that I was born, 91 to be exact. I could be a little bit off by a year or so with that, but I'm pretty sure y'all would let me know. But they're 0-3, like I mentioned before. They've been blown out in every single appearance. The last appearance was in 2006, where they were, beat by Florida 28-38. They signed some of the worst coaches in college football history on top of that. Now Bobby Petrino, that's a mixed bag, of course. He finished with a winning record, but it's just, all the drama afterwards. Now, he tied for a school record for wins in the regular season, but right after that, he left the team after he was involved in a motorcycle accident, which exposed an affair he had with a volleyball player, Jessica Durrell. He ended up paying her $20K under the table and got her a job on the athletic staff. So again, a winning coach, but he just was a skis ball in all these other aspects. So it's just like, damn, it made him look like a real pig, a real suey, like, come on now. Then you had Chad Morris going 4-18 overall, 0-14, trash, man. That's a bad coach. And this is the bad coaching example right here. And he was just going after like 2 seasons. They've been to 1 ball game since 2012. Come on now, but this is the SEC. It's so mighty. Come on, y'all, come on now. As far as 2022 is concerned, they only return 4 starters on the defense. They lose a bunch of their top tacklers. They lose 2 linebackers that had over 100 tackles last year. But they do bring back 2 starting defensive backs and 2 SEC transfers. Latavius Brini, who had 11 starts and 38 tackles at Georgia, and Dwight McLaughlin, who will go on to have 6 starts and 6 pass deflections at LSU. So, again, they're trying, but also offensively, this looks to be, their calling card right now, because they have KJ Jefferson. He's coming back. He had over 2,600 yards passing last season, 21-4 in a touchdown to interception ratio. He's also the leading rusher going into the season. Well, he was. He had over 664 yards on the ground and also 6 touchdowns in 2021. And they do bring back 2 500-yard backs in Raheem Sanders and Dominique Johnson. They also combined for 12 touchdowns, but they lose 3 of their top 4 receivers. But they got 4 starters coming back on the O-line, so there's a mixed bag for this team offensively. I think defensively, offensively, there's a mixed bag for them. Again, they're bringing back some guys on the O-line. They're bringing back some experience at the quarterback spot, which is good. Running-wise, they should be all right. But defensively, there's a lot of questions here. I think again, what do you really expect this team to do, y'all? Let's be real. But we're talking about how mighty the SEC is. Ask Paul Feinbaum. They're gonna give Alabama a run for their money, but this is just to justify why Alabama needs a #1 spot. This is be real. We also have Kentucky here, a team that I personally like, but they won a national championship in 1950, so a very long time ago. They haven't been close since, though. Let's be real. Their last SEC championship would come in 1977, and that was when they were ranked 5 in the nation. That's their highest ever ranking back in 1977. Just putting emphasis on all this. They have won some ball games, 4 straight under Mark Stoops, the other Stoop brother. Recently, they won the Citrus Bowl over Iowa, which was a good win for them. Another 10-win season for him and that program. But the program as a overall has a record of 653 and 658. It is what it is. And as far as this year is concerned, they bring back their quarterback, Will Levis, over 2,800 yards last season, 24 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. Look for that to improve, and in a sense, I think it does. They do also bring back their top running back, Chris Rodriguez, who broke a school record, 9 100-yard rushing games. Come on now. They have some positives going here. They started the season off, at least last season, 6-0 before losing to Georgia, and then they will get back-to-back wins. We'll take a few few more losses before winning 4 straight to end the year, including the Citrus Bowl, as we mentioned before. That's their 6th straight ball game, their 4th straight ball win. Again, we mentioned another 10-3 season. So again, Kentucky could improve, although how much is to be determined. I still think, they're in a tough spot with Georgia, and then of course Florida should be improved to an extent. So it's a tough road for all these teams. I mean, I think this conference is tough, but I think that's because these teams are relatively on each other's level. It's not just because they're just that much greater opposed to everybody else. I think the only team so far that we mentioned, only 2 teams so far that we mentioned that are really that great in totality, meaning that they will be they're vastly better than a lot of the college football teams, is going to be Bama and Georgia. I don't see Kentucky as that team. I don't see Texas A&M as a team like that. Matter of fact, I see Texas A&M as an overrated team. They're an all-time champion, 3 coming in 1919, 1927, and 1939. Their last conference title was as a member of the Big 12, and it was in 1998. Let's let that sink in. They haven't won a conference title since they were in the Big 12, and that was in 1998. Not even before they broke away into 2010 or something like that, 2011. No, 1998. I was 7 years old. A lot of us were in grade school when some of these teams were relevant. Some of these teams were relevant. Texas A&M being one of them. They average, and this is the cool part about this squad here. They consistently rank in the top 25 in terms of recruiting and in terms of regular season rankings, but they don't do anything of significance. They finished 8-4 last season. They would get a win over North Carolina in the Orange Bowl. Okay, that's solid. They would stud Alabama, but they would lose games in which they were favored against Arkansas and Mississippi State. So come on now. How you can beat Bama, but you can't beat Arkansas and Mississippi State and close out your division and go to a conference championship? This is my point. Oh, Texas A&M, they're so good. They're gonna give Bama. They could possibly beat Bama. We've seen this happen, but they can't win the division. How great are they? Anyways, only 6 starters are coming back on the offense, but we have 3 in the secondary, including Antonio Johnson, who was 2nd in terms of tackles on that squad. We also bring back, in terms of offense, Kings Hayes at the quarterback spot. He was a decent starter last year. We also have overall the offensive line is coming back to an extent. Again, you even had their fans. They're already trying to tell you this is not a make or break year for us, even though before the season you've had their coach calling out Nick Saban, doing all this stuff, talking all this trash, saying how they got the most recruiting class, even though we all know that they paid for it, they bought it, which is the way of the world right now. But again, we know how you got it. You ain't get it on just the GP of y'all just being a good program, a great transcendent program. Y'all just have one of the, y'all have a big, you have a wealthy recruiting base. We'll say that. Let's move on. We have Ole Miss here. Their best season ever would come in 1962, and their best era was under Johnny Vaught. They would go undefeated in that 1962 team. Again, this is before civil rights and stuff like that. Come on now. 1961, 1962 was their pinnacle. You know what I'm saying? 3-time national champion in that era. Haven't been back since. 10 ball wins and all that time since then. Their next great coach was Billy Brewer. 1983 to 1993, he went 68 and 53. He would have 3 ball wins. Great, let's clap it up, guys. But if we look at what they've done since, they haven't even won they've won a share of the divisional title, that being the West title, of course. But they haven't even played in the SEC championship game or a national championship game since then. Ooh, whoop-de-doo. On offense, they look to start Luke Altmaier this week against Central Arkansas, so they're still trying to figure out what's going on there. They lose a bunch of their top receivers, but they bring back 4 starters on the offensive line. They'll have 111 starts between them, so that should be a positive for them. They do bring back 7 starters on defense as well, including some transfers, 7 transfers to be exact, including linebacker Troy Brown out of Central Michigan, who last year had 11 starts and 66 tackles, and also defensive lineman Jared Ivy out of Georgia Tech, who are going to have 32 tackles last season. So, again, it comes down to their schedule. Again, they have a very important game, in my opinion, against Auburn. They are 3-12 versus the Tigers at home, with their last 2 wins coming in 2008 and 2012. So they got to get that win. That's going to be crucial for them to kind of maintain. Of course, they have to play LSU this year, Alabama this year. LSU should be a 50-50 game, in my opinion. They also go up against Bama. They're not beating Bama. That's the whole thing. So I can't see that. I can't see them winning this division. But they should be able to go 4-0 before the Kentucky matchup. And they're usually 5-1 against the SEC East. Under Lane Kiffin, so they should be able to beat KY and go 5-0. So, they should have a decent start, but, going down to the meat of that schedule, I just don't see it happening. And then now we're going to go to the low tier, and we're going to talk about South Carolina, and this is the one thing I can say. They won the SEC in 1969 and haven't done a damn thing since. Let's move on. No, can't be that easy. But again, let's be real. Spencer Rattler sucked last week versus Georgia State. 2 picks. How do you do that? We're talking Georgia State. Only 220 passing yards. A touchdown. Whoop-de-doo. They only bringing back 5 starters, I think, on the defense. But I think their best unit here might be the secondary. They do have 3 starters coming back there. They're also bringing back a decent. They're also bringing a decent transfer from Central Michigan, Devontae Reed, who's 17 all-match. They do have some positives there. They're bringing back their top 2 wide receivers from last year. Josh Vaughn, 679 yards from him, 5 touchdowns. Jaheim Bell would have 5 receiving touchdowns. They do bring back 9 starters in total on offense, so they have some things to say that are positive. But again, last SEC East title coming in 2010. How can you really say this team is going to compete? How do y'all come up with this is a great conference every year? How do y'all keep saying every year this is the best conference when you have one team who hasn't won a conference title since 1969? Stop it. We have Tennessee here. Last conference and national title, we talked about this before. Peyton Manning was there. He was a young lad. Okay, their last appearance in the SEC title game was in 2007. I was a junior in high school. Oh, guess what the top song was back then? Blow, whoa, 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 whoa. Rick Ross. A lot of money means modo, whatever he said. Blow, all that. They lost. 14-21 to LSU. 2-3 over the SEC, of course, in the SEC title game since then. Boo, boo. They won 4 ball games under Bush Jones, though. I'll give you that. Now, going into this year, Hendon Hooker will be coming back. He will be leading the offense. A solid performance from him last year. He had some 200-yard plus games, but overall, the team itself finished 7-6. They took an L in the Music City Bowl. I mean, the SEC. They were always told that they dominate all the ball games. They win everything, but they lose the Music City Bowl, which is basically in their hometown. Anyway, Cedric Tillman does come back. He was a 1,000-yard receiver last year. They added a transfer from USC, Rue McCoy, so that's a positive. On defense, they bring back 7 overall starters. So again, they look to be solid. I just don't see them. They can't beat Georgia. And again, you got to remember, Florida, they're a now and later team, but they're improved. We have to be honest with ourselves. So I don't see them easily making it out of the East without 2 or 3 L's. Off top, maybe even 4, because Kentucky's solid too. I mean, I'm just being honest with y'all. Like this conference ain't as hard as y'all think it is. Bama and Georgia are though. You ain't gonna get no argument. I told you, ain't no arguments there. But come on now, we ain't even got to the worst of the worst just yet. I don't know who I want to talk about. Okay, let's just finish this off. We got Mississippi, winning percentage of 49%. Okay, 581 wins compared to 598 losses, almost 600 losses. Come on, y'all. 1 conference title, and it came in 1941. Stop. Stop bragging about this conference. Their last divisional title came in 1998. I want to throw my glasses down, but I can't because I don't want to break them. And if we want to, this is just some all-time records versus the other SEC teams. They're 18-34 versus Alabama with 3 ties. They're 6-19 versus Georgia. They're 7-9 versus South Carolina. And come on, South Carolina don't win. They're 46-64 against their rival in the Egg Bowl, Ole Miss. The Bulldogs have a winning record against 3 teams in the SEC. They're 25-24. They're barely winning against barely a winning record against Kentucky. They're only 8-7 versus Texas A&M. But I will tell you this makes Texas A&M look even more overrated. They're 8-7 versus the Aggies, and they're 15-7 versus Vanderbilt. Who fucking cares? Vanderbilt is hot garbage. In terms of what to look out for this year, they bring back 9 starters on the defense, 3 in the secondary. Again, they've always had like a great defense, solid enough defense. They have great players that end up getting drafted on both sides of the ball, but it just doesn't amount to success in the SEC. But they bring back Emmanuel Forbes. He's a 2-time All-SEC linebacker. Two-time All-SEC linebacker, defensive back. He would also have 3 interceptions last year. They also bring back a second-time All-SEC linebacker, Tyrus Wheat, who had 46 tackles, 7.5 sacks last year, 3.5 tackles for loss. He also had a pick last year. Will Rogers would be probably one of the best quarterbacks, in my opinion, in the SEC. Look for him to just take this offense to another level. 4,700 yards, 36 TDs, 9 interceptions, 73% of his he completed 73% of his passes. And they already started off their season, nice. They had a revenge win over Memphis, so they look to be in a nice spot. I think if this is the year that they will challenge, it has to be this year. Will Rogers is really good. They bring back 9 starters on defense. I mean, this, in my opinion, it would be a hot seat year for Mike Leach, in my opinion. But I know down there in the state of Mississippi, they don't care about our meteorological assessment. So let's go ahead and move on to Missouri. Missouri has never been ranked #1. They think they've been given a national title by a polling association that the NCAA does not recognize. So again, do y'all count those? Y'all let me know in the comments. They've won 2 SEC East titles, 2010 and 2014. But overall, they're 38-44 versus the SEC. Last season, they were 6-7. What can you say positive, really? They bring back 8 starters on defense. That's solid, but they lose almost all their offensive production. Anybody who led a statistical category in offense is gone. That's what I'm saying. So that's what you got. And then, of course, to round out everything in this mighty, mighty conference, and remember, you are just as strong as your weakest link, at least that's what they say, we have Vanderbilt. Yes, the Commodores have a winning percentage of just 49%. They've won 50% of their ball games, okay? But they have 0 SEC titles. 0. Their last ever conference title came in 1923, and they were a member of the Southern Conference. Yeah, there you go. They were only relevant under James Franklin, who again is the head coach now at Penn State, where they would go 24-15. That was the most wins by any Vanderbilt coach, by the way. They averaged about 8 wins a season. They won 2 ball games. Whoa, wow, awesome. They had the longest road win streak of their entire program at 4 games. Wow. Oh, this is historical, guys. Coming from the SEC, this team is a barn burner. Oh my God, 4-game winning streak on the road. Oh my God, it's amazing because it's an SEC team. They have a 7-game winning streak, guys, in the 2012 season. Whoa, God damn, that's the best I've ever seen. Oh, everything the SEC does is golden, guys. Oh man. The 2012 team will score 40 points or more for the first time in school history since 1915. Oh my God. Woo, 2012, man. Woo. They finished the season ranked for the first time since 1948 that season too. Wow, 2012 was a great season. What has happened since then? Yeah, well, I don't have nothing really to say about Vanderbilt, no lie, y'all. So we're gonna call it a wrap for today. Obviously, I have Bama in the driver's seat to win this conference. They are practically in the conversation they are in the conversation every year. They are going to be in the national championship discussion. This is no hyperbole. This is no cap. They might even win that motherfucker. So let's just call it like it is. Georgia is in the mix, of course. They're definitely coming out of the East. I see another matchup. This is going to be a yearly thing. I think this is going to be a great rivalry. And Kirby has a experience with Nick Saban and everything, and it should be a good thing. But I love Nick Saban, man. I've learned to respect this guy so much. If you want to hear this man, if you really want to get some more respect for this guy, just understand some more about this guy, just listen to one of his seminars. I'm not talking about a press conference. Just listen to a seminar in which he's discussing team defense and the secondary and things of that nature, really getting into football. You'll really understand just why he's so successful. But outside of that, if I were to be honest with you, if I wanted to go with a dark horse, because that's what you have to do, you have to be honest, which you have to be fair. I gotta go with somebody out of the West. I'm gonna go with Ole Miss. I'm going to go with Ole Miss. Actually, no, I take that back. I'm going to go with their rival, Mississippi State. I like what they do in terms of defense. They seem to always have a solid defense. It just doesn't always come through for them overall. 9 starters, that's a good amount of starters to be bringing back. Mike Leach is having Will Rogers thrown out of his mind. He's always going to be air raid. I like the consistency here. I think they should be able to pull off some stunner games. I don't see Ole Miss doing the same thing. I see, LSU probably might be in that conversation as well, but I might even put them as a sleeper because in my opinion, they already kind of started off in a fucked up place with that loss to Florida State. But as far as the East is concerned, I think we're looking at some dark horses, the ones that come off to the top of my head. Kentucky, because they've just been in that conversation. They've been kind of in that mix for a while now. Florida, I mean, they've started off hot. They haven't been able to control it for a whole season, so they may be in the mix as well. And then as a sleeper, I think Tennessee, they have a better season than they have had before. We also got Missouri here. I think they both can have better seasons than what they've had before. At least get 2 more wins than what they've had the year before, but I don't really see them just outright competing this year. But anyways, if you guys liked what you saw today, please be sure to like and subscribe. I love the support. I really appreciate it. And if anybody hasn't told you yet, I love you. Peace out. One love, and I'll holler at you guys.